Sajith, going back to your journey, you spent 2 decades in media.
Yeah.
And I think by the way, whoever hates Arnab Goswami or whoever loves Arnab Goswami, one of the guys who launched Times Now is sitting right, on the left
Yeah.
of me.
Employee
So,
number 2. Yeah.
and I think you did a variety of media and connected
Yeah.
ventures when you were at Bennett and the Times of India group. So, tell us about that time. I mean, you've literally seen India's growth over those 2 decades. Like governments changed, and I think in the media industry, obviously, that's so visible, like the difference that happens across the board. So tell us about that. I feel like that would have been a super exciting time, getting that ringside view around the transformation of a nation.
Yeah, joined 98. I started working and I joined Times Music, which is launching Times Music then. And that's why they kind of told me you to join very fast, like, before, not July, you have to join May end. Can you join? And I joined. It's a very exciting stint. We're selling cassettes. I don't know if anyone knows what cassettes are. Essentially,
Was Planet M part of Times Music?
yeah, it was not part, it was a different division. But Planet M was a very glamorous music store, which a few years later just went out of business because nobody was buying music cassettes or CDs. But yeah, it was a very exciting thing. And I saw the music industry. Then 3 years later, I moved to the newspaper side. Then Times Now happened. And then the university business happened. I would say one interesting learning was I got to work with the owner of the Times of India, Samir Jain, who's a genius. And the Times of India is an incredibly profitable newspaper, and fundamentally they don't see themselves as a newspaper company. They see themselves as an advertising company. The way they see it is acquire customers cheaply through a decent enough product, sell them to advertisers. Quality of that, the way they think, the strategy, very high order to interact with Samir Jain, to kind of be part of the discussion. So that was very transformative as well. That was actually my real B school, I would say. So and I saw India change. It was an incredible change. I remember 98 I joined the Times, and we had this induction, and we went to the production plant. And at the time mobiles were very expensive, right? And so even to get a call, you were charged
Yeah, 18 rupees or 20 rupees in
six,
98.
16 rupees a minute. It was crazy, right? And I remember the person talking, oh my god, it's so expensive, the production hit 16 rupees a minute, that,
For an incoming call.
incoming call. So it's a very different era, and every respect I've seen a lot of change, and I would say one of the most interesting, I think I've seen the youth, and I would say there's a lot more confidence. In our case, the hierarchy was very clear, right? The bosses and this, and we're very kind of subjugated, and. But today, I think the younger folks are very confident, and they're able to kind of be very assertive. I find that impressive as well. So lots of small changes, lots of big changes, but some of these stand out.
So, which was your most memorable day at the Times Group in 2 decades?
Certainly, the university launch was a great occasion, and it's more recent. And I would say uh, one memorable day was very early on when we had this one hit product in Times Music. I still remember when you have a hit product, etc. Right? Product
Like
market
it
fit.
was a hit album, or
Yeah, it was called Gayatri, and it was a devotional category, strangely, as Gayatri Mantra. And I still remember, we put it out in the market, and we probably made about 10,000. It was a standard thing, 10,000 and some 300 or 500 CDs. And that evening, we started getting repeat orders. And so it was very, very bizarre. And you would say, someone would call, and they would call on the phone and say, Sajith Pai, 50 भेज देना, the Ahmedabad guy, 50 भेज देना. Then suddenly 3 hours later he called ki, भाई 50 निकला नहीं ना, 200 और डाल दो. Then and then when it happened, you realize it's a monster hit, and then you call and that evening was like incredible. We knew we had like a big hit on our hands, and it was crazy. So it was electrifying, those 1-2 days. So there were moments like this, and I'm sure I'm not remembering a lot, but I still remember Gayatri sales, and yeah.
and the news channel, right? Like
Yeah.
setting up something like Times Now. And I remember that in about 18 odd months since it was launched, I think it was very clear that there was a new kid on the block. And I mean, you could hear it from, and I'm talking about like 2007, 8, 9 types when news channels were still very popular. People used to watch it. At least the young people used to watch it. And I think now we've moved to YouTube videos. Um, when did you know that this was like a big hit on your hands, or that, or was there a conscious brand building around it which was different?
Yeah. I'll tell you some facts which are, I don't think, discussed or known. So maybe, yeah. Arnab came from NDTV, and he was a very liberal, like, like all that you say, Khan Market Gang, Perch, he was like that. I think deep down he still is like that. His son's name is Che, like, I don't know the exact full name, but like the dark, the Bengalis have that, right? The dark, the Bhalo, not Bhalo Nam and the dark Nam. The dark Nam is Che. What happened is, the channel took a long time to come. There were some regulatory permissions, etc. And I think some mischief happened. They delayed it one pretext or the other. So he was get very antsy. There was a lot of people hired this. It took a year and 3 months for the channel to come. Then it was a very competitive space by then, because English, these guys had already launched. CNN, IBN had launched. Others had also put in more money, and he was not able to get, many journalists came and left. So for a long time, he was not succeeding. In 2005, we had got certain books from the industry. Okay, and one of the book from US, etc. We had purchased books. So one of the books was a book called Crazy Like a Fox. I still remember. Arnab took the book, never gave back the copy to me. And the book was about how Fox carved out a space in the US by catering to one segment who had been ignored, which is the conservative right. And they went full right and they won that audience. Okay. What happened is that similar situation existed in India. Okay. And it had been ignored by all of the like left leaning channels. So what happened is, as Arnab started covering anything, and we had a military guy who would give good coverage. Arnab would come from, and he was center right, and his show started getting a lot of audience. So they looked at the data, they found out that that was working on. So he started moving more and more in that direction. And then there were a few things like that Prince one, etc., which gave a lot of response. So over time, it was just data. The data said every time you do this kind of programming, there's an audience. And Arnab was not very, how do you put it? He did not have anything that, oh, I will be this, I will not change myself. He said, this is what the market is saying, I look at this. And there is this term called audience capture. For example, today I'll be very honest. I'm audience captured by tech. If I write anything on poetry, which is a big area of interest, nobody will even like it, right? Because all my audience are tech bros and tech sisters, right? They want me to write on product market fit. Hey, what's happening with whatever, Silicon Valley, etc. So Arnab has been audience captured by that audience, and now he's completely catering to that. To be honest with you, it's a transition that just happened automatically. He's just gone more and more and more. So this is the secret that has been shared in I don't know if it's very germane to your audience, but there it is. Yeah.
When you were working as a, in the administration of that, when did you realize that, okay, this is the right positioning, branding, now we just need to continue to...
Yeah. I had moved to the print side by then. I had moved to this division called Brand Capital, which finally led me to joining Blume. So I'd moved on to that division. So I heard about it from the outside. And it was initially a gradual transformation. And he also took a lot of cues from, he went and spoke to the owners, etc., that this is positioning. So they also knew what was happening. And then one day, just doubled down and more. So we knew it from the outside that this was happening. It was discussed. Yeah.
I mean, everybody knew that newspaper was going to die eventually. Yeah. But at least the non-English part of newspapers in India still probably exists and has its own really loyal audience. What do you think of the... do you still think that that's a product that has space in today's world, or is it inevitable?
Since early 2000s, because I used to work with Samir Jain, they've been talking about the sunset of print, and his favorite term was prolonging the sunset of print. Do everything you can. And what happens is, when an industry, and the way he thinks is very different. He doesn't think revenue, he thinks profits, he thinks market share of profits. So it's a bit like tobacco, and a lot of these businesses, they're declining, but the people who want it are willing to pay a price for it, and there's no competition coming in because it's a declining thing. Advertising, you don't have to do anything because okay, so typically you're more profitable and you're trying to squeeze as much as possible. So I saw how he thinks about the business, and they would think in a very, very strategic way about the business. In fact, he was not interested in languages. He created a category called Bedam. Like, this is the way he said: broadsheet, English, daily, urban, morning. This is the most profitable category. I will dominate here because the advertiser pays the highest premium for this category. Language is the opposite of this, effectively, other than the morning, right? It's not like some of them are tabloid, they're rural, they're non-English. And he said, English ke liye people pay, and I will do everything. So yes, Times of India did get into languages, and when the time was right, they got into languages. But they would look at it and say, hey, same audience, same 100,000 copies, if a language paper sells, they're getting 1/10 the advertising that English gets. Why should I focus on that category? So there was a lot of strategic thinking around that, and I think they've been reasonably successful. They're still they're still profitable. I think the revenues have come down. Maybe at my era when I left, it was 4,000 crores. Maybe now it's 2,500 crores. Maybe, but they're still profitable.